Okay, it's 11:33, October 1st. This is St. Genevieve. We're looking now at the Felix Valley State Historical Site, Department of Natural Resources. We'll find out more about this old home here. It's raining. This is the downtown area. Old historic town here. There again, that's the Felix Valley, I guess, V-A-L-L-E. As you can probably see, it's raining cats and dogs. And we're here. I'm under an awning. And there's one of the other historic houses here in St. Genevieve that we're looking at about a block away. But since it has started to rain, so there's the Tourist Information Center across the street. It's more of the downtown old. It's really a quaint old town here. And now we're sitting in a car. This is the B-E-Q-U-E-T-T Ribault, R-I-B-A-U-L-T Living History Museum. I don't think there's anything here. It's just an old house that's built with the porch and the veranda all the way around it. St. Genevieve. Out of the car, this is another historic. It's the Armado house. You can see there's a bus group there. Everything down, what is it? 1770. And you can see the bus group. They sell antiques and things in here. It's a private thing. And all these places, they charge admission down here, $1.50 to get in. And it's a rainy day, so we're not going to go in. We're going to go on. This is the just the Green Tree Tavern. It's way back in 1790, I think is what the sign says there. But this is one of the first inns and the first taverns along this. It's now South Main here in St. Genevieve, but one of the trails out of town, the Green Tree Inn. Yeah, I've got rain or something on my thing. Founded in 1785 or something like that. Some of the other old houses in this old area on Main Street here in town, St. Genevieve. Now it's still raining. We're looking now at the one that's called the Old Brick House. And I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says the Old Brick House. This is the first brick building that was built west of the Mississippi River. And it goes back, and I can't read the date on it, but I think it says 1785 or something like that. Just some more of the downtown area here of St. Genevieve. Quaint old historic town. Sorry about the weather, but best I can do. Late 1700s. Yeah, Bufordville covered bridge. Here where the scenic, let's see if we can get in. All right, here where the scenic Whitewater River spills over the Bollinger Mill Dam stands one of Missouri's few remaining covered bridges. The date 1860 on Cass Pier marks the beginning of construction, which halted by the Civil War, was not completed until 1867. The early settlement here became, in 1870, Bufordville Post Office, probably named for its first postmaster. A marvel of wood engineering with its 140-foot self-supporting span, the bridge was built of yellow poplar by Cape Girardeau contractor Joseph Landsman. In 1950, the Missouri State Highway Commission restored the bridge. So here we have the sign about the bridge here at Bollinger's Mill. Okay, we're standing here in the sun. Maybe we'll get a little bit of it. This says Bollinger's Mill. Major George Frederick Bollinger built the first mill here in 1800 on a 640-acre grant from Louis Lomier, Spanish commandant of Cape Girardeau district of Upper Louisiana. A German Swiss from North Carolina, Bollinger visited the area in 1796 and returned with 20 families. His mill became the largest and best in the district. The mill, damaged in the Civil War, later rebuilt operated until 1950 and is now operated by the Cape Girardeau County Historical Society. Bollinger, an outstanding pioneer, military major in the War of 1812, was a noted legislator in the territory and later state of Missouri. With the history of Bollinger's Mill. And it's clouding up. It's rained here. Water is standing everywhere. And it was sun shining, but now it's beginning to cloud up again. So we'll go on over and to the mill. And that's it there in the background, the bridge spanning the Whitewater River along with the mill. Covered bridges in Missouri.
In Missouri, the covered bridges were first used in the 1850s when roads, railroads, and other land travel became the popular means of transportation. The first covered bridge in the state was built in 1851 in Boone County over Pershey Creek on the Boone's Lick Trail. Did you know that? Eventually, 30 covered bridges were built in Missouri. Most of these were constructed in northern Missouri in the years just after the Civil War. The ravages of time and progress took their toll on Missouri covered bridges. Fire, flood, abandonment, or rerouting of once heavily used railroads and simple neglect left only 8 covered bridges in the state in 1958. By 1967, only 4 were still standing.
Okay. Now there's a map. It says only 4 remain, and number 1 is the Locust Creek covered bridge, which is up in Lynn County. I think up near Linneus.
No, between Laclede and Meadville.
Laclede and Meadville, okay.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is Union covered bridge south of Paris. Number 3 is the Sandy Creek covered bridge
in Hillsboro.
North
of Hillsboro in Jefferson County.
Which we missed coming down. And this one is a Bufordville covered bridge here close to Jackson. All right, let's zoom in. All right, the Locust Creek covered bridge was built in 1868, also known as Lynn County Covered Bridge. It is located midway between Laclede and Meadville. At 150 feet in length, it is one of the longest covered bridges built in Missouri. So that's the Locust Creek Bridge at Meadville. And number 2 here we're more familiar with. It's the Union Covered Bridge on the Burr Arch.
Is the only
Burr Arch truss bridge still standing in Missouri. It is located 8 miles southwest of Paris in Monroe County. It was constructed in 1871 by famed covered bridge builder J.C. Elliott. And that's that one. Then number 3 here is the Sandy Creek covered bridge. And it is a Howe truss bridge built in 1872 by John H. Morse. It is located 5 miles north of Hillsboro in Jefferson County. This bridge was washed away in 1886, but half of the original timbers were salvaged to rebuild it in the same location the following year. And this is number 4, and this is the Buford Bridge covered bridge. Bufordville covered bridge. It is the oldest still standing in the state. Its construction began in 1858, was disrupted by the Civil War, and was finally completed in 1868. The Howe Truss Bridge is located in Cape Girardeau County in Bollinger Mill State Historic Site. And that's where we're at now. So there are the 4 bridges in Missouri. It's just the back side of the bridge, and you can see the corner of the mill here, and we'll get a better shot of it. That's the Whitewater River, and it has really rained here, and things are running about 2/3 bank full, and you can see how muddy that water is. It's just rained here this morning. In the mill now. Just looking around, there's some of the old machinery that they used. It still smells like ground corn in here. The old mandrels. Rafters in the old mill. Even a first class one-holer here with the door open. I think it's kind of like the mill. It's out of use too. But here it is in the mill. I wish you could get the odor of the old corn that's been ground in here. but they've got it screened out now. But this is built over the water, and the water would come through here, and it would drive the turbines, which are located under the water here. You can't see them, but around. Now here's a picture showing how the turbine was run, which drove the mandrels, which run the grinders and everything here at the mill. And they're located right down in this area here under all this muddy water. They say they've had 3 to 4 inches of rain here overnight. Bollinger's Mill in the basement, covered bridge. Bollinger's Mill. Here's Betty. She's just standing out there on this rock pier, looking at the bridge. Here's the bridge now, looking through it. We'll walk across it here and look out the other end in a minute. Out to the east side of the mill, on the back side of it here, you can see the race where the water goes down into the mill, which drives the turbine. It runs in through that little gate there. See a kid down there, he's been fishing. He come walked out around there and he's been fishing. But that's the old mill. And it was in operation, they said, until 1950. Over 100 years that this mill was in operation. It's a very beautiful place. Now here we are looking back at the covered bridge, and back through it. They've got it blocked off. The bridge seems solid, but I guess somebody's abused it, so they won't let you drive through it anymore. Bollinger's Mill here at Bufordville, south of Jackson. We do it backwards. But when we came in, there were several cars parked around here. But this is the entrance marker to the Bollinger Mill State Historic Site here at Bufordville. And this is the little town of Bufordville. It's a gift shop. There's a few houses here, but that's about all. Got a car coming, so I'll move out of the road. Shot from the other angle. This is actually the front of the mill. Looks like there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories to this thing. If you go clear to the top. And we didn't take the tour. We don't have quite time. And there's the covered bridge there in the background. If you hear an auctioneer in the background, they're having an auction down the road here about 1/4 mile. They've got a nice little park here. You can picnic, but there's no overnight camping. Bollinger's Mill and covered bridge.
Take it by herself.
We'll put you on TV. How's that?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Then see, he just plays this back on the television. Well, he's got to have what they call a VCR, and he plays it back on television.
Yeah.
So he'll take it home and show it to everybody now.
Did you ever see anybody that made long like that?
Well, that's to keep it from washing, and that holds the moisture.
I know it holds the moisture in it, and he's just been working. He's fairly new at this.
But I would imagine.
This was all bare in here, but it's.
I would imagine down here though, there's not that much soil. It's so rocky that the water just drains right off.
Well, they didn't put any topsoil or anything.
The Lambert's Cafe in Sykeston. This is a cafe where it's the home of the Throne Rose. About every few miles coming down here from St. Louis, you see the sign, Lambert's Cafe in Sykeston. So here it is. Look at the line. Looks like the Red Lobster along here. And this place is closed, but it's one of the land sites here in land marks here in New Madrid. It's the Hunter Dawson Plantation Home. Okay, we're standing here now in New Madrid, looking at this pier. There goes a barge down the Mississippi River. And this pier that goes out here, it says Mississippi River Observation Deck, 1988. By Land and Water Conservation Grant Funds and City of New Madrid. W.R. Phillips Jr. Mayor, and it lists the alderman. But this has just been built out here so you can get a view of the Mississippi River. Okay, again, this is the barge as we zoom in as it goes downstream. We're looking downstream. I don't think I can. There's the power plant in the background. Grain elevators. There's a little island out through there, and they've channeled that out. But evidently they've got enough of a channel here they can still get some of the barge. I'll shade this and see what happens as we look upstream. But it's just on the observation deck here at New Madrid. And I don't have any idea how far downstream we're looking, but it's miles. This delta land levee along the river here. And that's the rest of the pier here at New Madrid. This is just a shot of the main street in New Madrid. And up in the street they've had a carnival or something here. And this is, I get the date. Okay, here we go. 9:30, October 2nd. The carnival's packing up, getting ready to leave. We're up on the levee here. Looks like about 30 foot above the level. Looking down. I'm out of focus here on my. There we go. Just looking downstream, there's a barge down the river. In Madrid, Missouri. There's the pier that goes out. Crothersville, and we're in a downtown part. Believe me, there isn't much in Crothersville that we've seen, but they do have this picture depicting cotton picking time on the plantation years ago. And we pulled in here and we're just taking a shot of it. It's just a picture. Here we are again. We're looking upstream on the Mississippi River, and you can see a barge way in the distance up there. A large tow going upstream, and then down here is a smaller barge. It's going up. Looks like he's unloaded. He's riding. Those barges are riding high on this water. Maybe that's all they can put in them because of the river being low. That's looking upstream. We'll pan downstream, but I think the sun's going to be in our eyes. We're here at Crothersville. This is the bungee elevator on down there. More elevators and loading docks all along here for the barges. Okay, we're looking downstream. We're right here at the edge of the water on a boat ramp, and we're looking pretty much into the sun as we pan around now. Hear the barge running in the background. Crothersville, Missouri. The downtown area looks about like Mexico, although it's just a straight street. A lot of empty buildings, small shops. We're here at Haiti at the airport. See all these crop dusters here. They're parked out here just one after another. It looks like, according to that building over there, they're manufactured here. But they sure have a bunch of... Alright, we're just driving along here west of Haiti. What highway are we on? 412. The boot heel. picker there. Another series of levees or canals, whatever you call them, down through here. Missouri. Betty said there was a sign that said Peach Capital of Missouri. Okay, we're going down the road here. We're just south of Frederick.
Going down the hill just west of Fredericktown, heading toward
Baptist Church.
Ironton and Arcadia Valley.
Driving down the road here, coming into Ironton, and saw this large building, and it's the Baptist home here at Ironton. I'm looking a little bit into the sun. I hope you can see it. They're having their 75th anniversary here, and that's what the crowd is in the front there, and we'll take some more of that here in a minute. Here's the pond, and I was standing right on that little stone bridge there when I took the other pictures. There's Betty looking down here at the Ironton home for the old folks in Ironton. Again, we're kind of in the shade now, not looking into the sun, but the Baptist home here in Ironton. Sock Mountain, and there's a information kind of a shelter here. It just says Ozark Trail, and if you read it, it shows Tom Sauk Mountain about right there where my finger is. As you come off of the highway, as you circle around on CC, this is the highest point in the state of Missouri. And I didn't know it, but when we were down in the boot heel this morning, it's now about 2 o'clock. In fact, it is 2:08. This morning when we were down the boot hill, we were just within a few minutes of the lowest point in the state of Missouri. But this is Tom Sauk Mountain, highest point in the state of Missouri. The tower here at Tom Sauk, because of the trees, it's kind of hard to get much of a shot of it. There's the Conservation Department, his house up here. It's just pine trees here in the whole area. There are several others up here. And again, we're just doing a sweep of the thing. Yeah, we'll climb up here in just a minute. We can't go clear to the top, only here we are.
Out of breath and all.
Out of breath.
Okay, there's your power plant right over there. See that brown thing on top of the hill?
Yeah.
That's where your power comes from.
All right, I hope you can see this in the camera, but we'll zoom in. I guess we are zoomed in. That round hill over there is the Tom Sauk Reservoir. They pump water up there and then let it run down to generate electricity. We're looking across now, I guess, to the south or the southwest at the mountains. Boy, there's a wind blowing up here and back across. Okay, Betty's up here too. There's another tower in the distance. There's more mountains in the background there. Somebody said we're looking at 30 to 40 miles back through there. Now it's clouded up here, and those are actually shadows that you see over on some of those other mountains. You can see a string blowing in front of you here. Kind of show you how windy it is up here. We're in no danger of being blown off or anything. I'd say the wind's blowing 15-20 mile an hour. Down there is the cabin, and again we're looking back over toward Tomsock to the reservoir, and I think the sun's coming out again. The observation deck here at Tomsock. We were not quite to the top, but we were very near it there on the nearest landing. They won't allow you into the cabin up there. It's a fire tower. And in the spring and in the fall, if it's real dry and you can catch somebody in there going up, you might talk them into letting you go in there and walk around, but ordinarily it's closed to the public. Will believe us that there's a Royal Gorge in Missouri, but between Arcadia, Ironton, and Lesterville, just past the Tomsock Mountain, is this Royal Gorge Scenic View. Missouri State Highway Commission. And so here it is, the Royal Gorge. And there's Mrs. Baker getting ready to go down to the Royal Gorge and to see what's down there. So we'll pan out, looking down now at the mountains. Straight away we've parked and we're looking here. I'll walk across the road, up and coming, I hope. There's your scenic view. Royal Gorge in Missouri. Alright, we'll get some more shots of the stream here as we looking over. You can hear the water as it gushes down the falls there. See the mountain sides, and of course, like everything else, no matter where we go, the doggone sun's always shining in the wrong direction. But there's the Royal Gorge, Missouri view. And you can see there's another car parked up there, and there's some people down there playing in the stream. But here we are, Royal Gorge. Car going by honking his horn. Of the Royal Gorge, we're looking down several feet. Pretty good pool of water there. Going down around the corner. Cars coming. So we're going to have to pan out for this time. And again, it's a little after 3 on October the 2nd. Here's the entrance. You walk through this little thing, and the sign above it reads, "Foot Trail to the Shut-Ins." And so we're at Johnson's Shut-In Park here in Lesterville, Missouri. It says, extreme danger. No diving or jumping. Submerged objects create hazardous conditions. Johnson's Shut-Ins. The stream flows through here, comes down into this very narrow gorge. And all these rocks stick up. And used to be people would come out here, get out on the rocks where that fella is, and dive in those pools. I don't have any idea how deep those pools are, but they would dive in and try and touch bottom. And generally they couldn't do it. There's some out walking there on the rocks here. Up there on the the shut-ins, and we're up above them looking downstream. Pardon me, we're below them looking on downstream, because they're down in this area back here. Very different. Well, just stay back up there, honey. Alright, we're looking downstream again, off the bluff here, probably 150 feet above the river. And all you see is rock to the side. We're going to go on down just a little bit and see. We're going to turn around and pan around. And that's the edge of the bluff up there. And we're just walking down along these rock. Right over the edge of the bluff is about, 150, maybe 200 feet straight down to the stream. And now, all you gotta do is jump out and you'll be right in the water there. Gosh, I don't have any idea how deep that pool of water is. More of the rocks. Now that's all uphill, and we've got to go back there. Here looking over the shut-ins. The rocks really, kids playing in the water. This will break some of the rocks here. I can just get Betty to jump in there now, up on those rocks with the phone. Come down here and set. Not over 200 or 300 yards from where the shut-ins are. But this is how the river looks. And then as you pan downstream, it gets shut in and it goes over those rocks. And there's the beginning of the shut-ins. And just around that corner is where the big rock.
Wild area.
I'll read it.
The wild area is noticed for its steep hills and mountain scenery which retain wilderness qualities for backcountry recreation.
Okay, down here at the potholes now.
Okay, the potholes are formed by abrupt changes in direction of the powerful currents of the stream, using suspended sand and gravel to grind out the circular holes.
Okay, how about this?
The chutes.
Yeah, I'm
Chutes.
getting a terrible
Chutes
glare.
form where water follows a long narrow fracture in the bedrock. Glade. The trail crosses a barren rocky opening that supports plants and animals adapted to desert-like conditions. Eastern collared lizard.
There you go. This is the entrance to the Elephant Rocks trail. It says Elephant Rocks Braille Trail. They must have it fixed up for the blind. But we'll go on through it. See what we can find. It says, welcome to Elephant Rock State Park, one of Missouri's most unusual geologic formations. These giant granite boulders were shaped and sculptured by nature's forces over millions of years. The boulders called Elephant Rocks because of the huge shape and size are some of the oldest exposed rocks in the state. Although similar smaller outcroppings occur through the St. Francis Mountains, most outstanding formations are found at Elephant Rock State Park. And there's a map of the park, and here's a braille. Shows the old Braille Trail, the old quarry, You overlook Bird Pass, Fat Man Rocks. And these are granite. They were actually quarried and one thing and another, but they're the giant rocks. Not the big ones that we'll see here, but this whole area is full of these rocks that just stick up everywhere. We'll walk on up here and as we're walking just through the woods, the trees, the squirrels, and the natives in this area. Trail. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but there's quite a lot of sumac and different things here. Beginning to turn colors. I don't know whether it's going to show up because we're pretty much in the shade. Just more of the rocks. The trail that goes through them. What? Just some of the red granite showing up here. And of course, like as usual, we're looking into the sun. And it's getting along 4:36 in the evening. So we'll move on, but there's some wild yahoos characters climbing up there trying to turn them big rocks over. But just some of the red granite here, Elephant Rock. Several piles of rocks just down here. We still haven't got to what we call the big elephant rocks yet. But rocks, red granite, gray granite, everything down here. We're gonna pan out now just for a panoramic view of the Ozark Mountains. Over here is an observation deck where we were just at, with more of the Ozarks in the background. St. Francis Mountains is what they're called. Iron County. Miss Betty's determined she's going to climb up there on them, but I think she's headed dead end. These are not what we saw they were laying out, but these are more of the granite rocks. Just great huge rocks everywhere. I think she's changed her mind now.
I changed my mind. I'm gonna get up there.
There's just no way up there. But we'll find the rest of them. We'll get several different shots of them, different views. But as they lay here on the trail, these are the rocks that the name of the park is named for, Elephant Rock. Under that rock, that big one, I think it's the back end of the elephant, and she's got her hand up there trying to hold it up. But like usual, we're looking into the sun, but we'll come back and get another shot. On the side of the mountain, and again we're looking at some of these rocks all the way back in there, and those are the ones that you see when you see the Elephant Rock State Park. This is all a granite rock here all the way up, and those are the big ones laying there at the top. We'll pan around now and probably be in the sun, but there's more there. I'm shading the camera. Looking at the Ozarks. There's Betty on down a little further. Again, we're coming back around. There, now the sun. Mighty, mighty big rocks. Names, addresses, everything carved in these rocks. We'll try and see if we can find some. Way uphill here, believe it or not. That's all just solid rock up there. And that's the big elephant rock. These are more of them that are just laying along here. I hope you can see them as they appear. There's a tree there behind some. There's one outcropping. There's another big one. But the big ones are right back in there. Comes another couple down around here. Just another rock sitting out. Elephant rock. Panoramic view. You can see some of the carving. In many places on these rocks they've carved them out. That looks like A. Archie. That's about all I can tell. Here's more carving here on a rock. Looks like L.B. L.B.C. B.E.S. L.Bessie. L.B.E.S.S.E. That they've carved on these rocks. An area, it's called Fat Man Squeeze. And we're going to try to squeeze ourselves through there. But I think it won't be any difficulty. It doesn't look that hard all along this trail. And the sign here reads, directly in front of you is a vertical rock wall falls 30 feet to the water-filled quarry. The water is 40 feet deep. Granite was mined from this quarry to pave streets and construct buildings in St. Louis and other U.S. cities. And it says that these rocks were used to pave Laclede's Landing in St. Louis. And there's the waterfall as it comes down. It isn't running a great lot, but it comes down into the water. And I hope that the redness of these rocks show up, but it's late in the afternoon, and I'm afraid they might not. Now all these posts here that you see around this overlook are also made out of red granite quarried from here. And this one the sun's shining on. I hope the sparkle picks up. But that's the rock that was quarried here in this elephant. Red granite. Red and gray granite both. Here at Merrimack Caverns now. We'll zoom in. It says Jesse James Hideout, Stanton, Missouri. Now that's all under a awning there in the shade. I don't know whether you get it, but there's the Merrimack Caverns there too. And there's I guess Jesse James and some of the boys as they prepare to for a robbery or something. It's right down under the cave. When you go in, you'll be right in it. That's all the bluff in the background. And as we pan on around across the parking lot, this is the Merrimack River, and we'll walk over there and take a shot up the river. But the parking lot ends where the river begins. Stream now at the Merrimack River. Sign here says swim at your own risk. There's a dangerous current. There's the bluff area, and then there's the caverns there in the background, the weeds and the trees around here. The statue now, I guess, of Jesse James and Frank. And there's a marker here. Hysterical marker, Jesse James Hideout. In the early 1870s, he and his band used this cavern on numerous occasions because it afforded a complete hideout for men and horses. Merrimack Caverns. Lee Mace used to say, when he would advertise his Indian burial grounds cave there at Osage Beach, that he was afraid that that was the only cave in Missouri that Jesse and his men never used. Alright, there's a sign. I hope you can read it. It's out of focus. Jesse James, remember? Jesse James Hideout. You see all the different. And the pictures there, this says the wine table. This one over here is the stage curtain. This one is the jungle room. This one is the theater room. There's the Luke room. No sign on this one. This is the entrance to paradise, it says. This is Mirror River. The ballroom. And this is the
back by the honeymoon room, ducked under the ceiling and crawled back into this area of the cave. So I used ropes to pull the heavy items through behind them. Got back in here, divided up the money. Then I kind of left all the heavy articles laying around back in this room of the cave. Once doing that, they then figured the gang could step down from here.
along here now.
Now, ones that are forming on the ceiling are called stalactites. There's two names for those. There's soda straws when they're real skinny, kind of hollow, or real young like this. After a while, they usually become solid. Water takes on.
Spaghetti room. 15 inches instead of 50 feet, huh?
Okay, this area of the cave right here is what we call our third floor. The big formation out here is called Onyx Mountain. Now, Onyx Mountain is known for its great size. It sits about 28 feet tall at its tallest point, close to 500 feet around the base there. And they estimate the age.
Submarine gardens.
That pool's probably maybe about a foot deep.
Thing with just the bright lights on. That area right there had the color lights on it.
That's age of the curtain formation to be about 70 million years old. We make it the oldest formation in the entire cave. They also tell us the curtains are said to be about 70 feet tall. They kind of start out of your view underneath this ravine up in here. Then they drop some 58 feet down to what we call the stage. Now from the stage there, the curtains drop off another 12 or 13 feet down to what's called the orchestra pit. Makes the overall length there around 70 feet from top to bottom. Now they also start here at the left. We call this the fountain of youth. And it's down here, go through the curtain parting, and kind of watch the curtains pull to the close behind. Now besides the curtains in the room, we do have another area of formation. So you can see that spotlighted off to the left. We like to call it the million and one. And as we tell us, that's the way they think the curtains began. And here the curtains started as an area of tiny stalactites like that. Eventually we grow together, go to the ground, and kind of form the stage curtain. And they do tell us that we'll have a new set of curtains off to the left over there. They tell us so not to get a little excited or anything. It'll take at least another 30, 40 million years for that to happen. Now the best way to really show you all this stuff in this area is being bright as raw sunlight. It's kind of impossible right now. We're close to 90 feet below the surface. So what I can do in this room is install a bunch of bright lights in here. And all these lights will find a little music playing in the background. You can feel free to get up, look around, take a picture of it. Here the music coming to an end, though, if you would return to the seats, we have a second part to come. And right now I'd like to introduce y'all to America's #1 cave scene. Again, we call it the stage and stage curtains of Merrimack Caverns, also known for their great size, age, and beauty, simply as the rock or relief. And again, if you'd like to, feel free to get up and get a closer look at them.
up now in Merrimack State Park up at what they call a Hickory Center Convention Center. And the drive up here, we're just outside of Sullivan, Missouri. A view of the Ozark Mountains. Looking in the background, the distance probably to the southwest, 15-20 miles back down to the sun here at Merrimack Park, getting ready to launch into a canoe. Huh? Packing our lunch.
It'll be windy and cool to close, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Winds are blowing. Building some kind of a new concession stand, something here. I don't know what that building is up over there. We'll have to check it out as we go out to the park and see what it is. We hadn't noticed it coming in. Here again, canoe launch, Merrimack State Park. It says Merrimack Springs, called by the Indians Big Luck Springs. Maximum daily flow 420 million gallons, average daily flow 96,300,000 gallons. That's a bunch of water. Looking now into the springs. You see where it's boiling up? All the trout. The sun shining through a tree in there. And the trout are all gathered. Now they're moving on. But this is the springs where it boils up out from under this rock here. But we're right up at the edge here, and you can see the water moving where it's boiling up from the springs. And this is the area right here in which the water boils up from the underground river, and this forms the start of the Merrimack River. Trout floating up right there where the springs boils up. From the other side of the springs where this water is boiling up, where these fish are floating around here, and you look up to the top of the cliff. Of course, we're looking into the sun again. Now this is a shot just downstream. There's a waterfall right down in this area here. And we'll walk down around there in a minute. This is a paved walk all the way around the spring here. Merrimack Springs. Merrimack Park, St. James, Missouri. The sun. So we're looking now at the one of the falls where this water from the spring comes up, comes down here, probably 100 yards, and runs over a falls here. And this is just a shot downstream. Merrimack Springs. For this other fall that I showed you, part of the water comes down through there. Part of it's diverted on a little race that comes around an island form here, and then it comes back down in over this fall and down in to what forms the river now. You can see the current as it goes through the park now here at Merrimack Springs. Beautiful day, cool and nice. Several years ago we were down here on a picnic, and Tony came down over the hill to feed the fish, and he fell in about right there where Betty's got her foot. But this is for you, Tony, where you fell in while you was feeding the fish. Up the hill here now is a picnic area where we were at, and they heard him hollering that he had heard him screaming, didn't know what was wrong, so everybody come running and found Tony in the water where he was feeding the fish. Just panning around here. We're going to go across the stream. is called the Old Trail Race, and I think that back when they first began the iron smelting here, they diverted rather, some of the water, and they had a water wheel that ran some of the equipment that they used to run the trip hammer and things here at Merrimack Springs, which was originally an iron foundry founded by the James family years ago. We'll get some history of that. But I think at one time, this probably was where the water wheel was located in this area. Picture that. She says great big trout. I throw them back if they're not that size or bigger. Boy, he's a big, nice rainbow. I hope he shows up. Here's several others. Another nice one. But that one in particular really shows up. I hope you can see him. So we're just looking upstream now. This is some of the bigger fish. There they go. Look like big old sharks out there. Huh? Yeah. Now here's some of the fish. I doubt if we can see them. But some in here that probably will be released for the catching. Down through there and around the corner to the old mill race house. Now here's a sign in back of us that says blacksmith shop. So evidently when they were smelting the iron, this is where the blacksmith is. They just seem to kind of follow us around here. Again, we're in the sun. There are some poppers in here. Said blacksmith shop. Here's one now that says the rolling mill, and we'll have to get this. There's the old race house, and the rolling mill was done in this area here. This is a wagon that is a replica of one of the wagons that was used to haul the iron ore here into Merrimack furnace area by the James family to make into pig iron and later into iron. There's some pictures here and we'll try and capture all. I'm probably going to get a terrible shadow, but this simply shows the wagon pulled by a team of oxen loaded with pig iron ore being delivered to be made into iron. Cutaway of a water wheel that was used to drive some of the machinery, the mandrels and everything that ran the lathes that lifted the anvils that pounded the iron into their regular iron. And again, we've got shadows all over it with the water wheel and this trip anvil here as it's being used. This is a picture of the blacksmiths as they went about business of shoeing horses and making wagon wheels and everything for the foundry. It's one of the iron anvils that was used. You see the water wheel and the way it was rigged up to, it was an undershoot water wheel, they said, to run these big anvils and trip hammers that pounded out the steel. Or the iron. It wasn't steel, it was iron that they used. Again, because of the trees and the sun, I can't really get a good shot, but this must have been the main forge. See part of the old flue up there. The iron ore was put in, then they'd put in 18 pounds of charcoal, then they'd put in some limestone for flux, and they'd heat this all to a liquid. And because of the availability of the water to rapidly cool it, and also to run the trip hammers and things, this was the reason that this area was so much used for the making of iron. This was in the early 1800s. Used to divert the spring water and to bring it on down here past this forges. And of course it was used, it was narrowed there, And here again is the forge in the background and the trees that they used. Some of the furnaces where they would actually heat and use it to make this pig iron. There in the background was the water wheel and some of the area that we covered earlier. Merrimack Springs, St. James, Missouri. View from the past, the old iron furnaces of the 1860s, and we'll pan to the 1980s here in just a minute. 1980s, trash can, a trout fisherman. He was in the river when I started to walk down here. Now he's coming up along the bank, more of them in the background, fishing off the bank. Here we are, the bridge over the river, or over the stream. And again, they're up there on the bridge trout fishing. 1988. Alright, here's the hole. This is deep hole. Don't see no trouts being caught. Uphill here, down a gravel road to what they call the old mine area. And this says the Ozark, the Merrimack Ore Bank. The Merrimack Ore Bank is one of those referred to as fill sinks and is cited as being a good example of elongated inverted cone type. In other words, it widens out as it goes down. The main working of the mine consisted of a circular pit 225 feet in diameter and about 80 feet deep. The main ore body occurred 10 to 30 feet below the surface of the ground. The position of the ore made mining a simple process. The overlaying soil and debris were stripped from the mine with pick and shovel and dumped to the side out of the way. Then using pick shovels and hand drills and black powder, the miners broke the ore into chunks small enough to handle it to the furnace and to haul it to the furnace in wagons pulled by 6 mule teams. The ore from the mine that had been profitably mined was in 3 varieties: the purple paint ore, the soft red ore, and the hard spectacular ore. Also the horse or mounds of clay that is located in the center of the pit is the residual material left from the weathering of the dumalite. And there's just another sign there, but this area, and we'll get another view of it here from the overlook, is the old ore pit. And they mined this ore much like you would strip mine coal. And of course, again, we're looking now into the sun. But this is why the iron furnace was located so close. And the spring provided all kinds of water for the melting and smelting of the iron ore. But this is the pit. It's probably 2 miles from the furnaces. It says, you are now entering one of Missouri's first trans-link roads. It is typical of many of the frontier wagon roads in the early 1800s that linked the small community to another. Stringtown Road served 2 purposes. This stretch of road formed the link between St. Genevieve and Springfield, Missouri in 1824. In 1824, Merrimack Springs was a welcome campsite to both Indians and white travelers. After 1826, the road was named Stringtown because of the line of houses along either side of the road, which made a straight line from the Merrimack mine pit to the Merrimack Iron Works. These dwellings housed the iron workers. Okay. Thousands of tons of iron ore were hauled over this road to the Merrimack furnaces. Without this road, the crossroads towns of Big Prairie, Sacudo, Jamestown, eventually named St. James, would never have existed. The crossroads were what we are now Highway 68 and Interstate 44. The Stringtown Road provided a shortcut to the southwest and eventually the present town of St. James. Merrimack Springs area was served by this road for more than 100 years. It is still in use As time worn as it appears, the road carries many memories of hidden secrets about the life of the old ironworks in Merrimack Springs that, if known, would no doubt astound us all. But this is the Stringtown Road, and we're about to proceed down the superhighway here. And you can see it in the town road is an area now with the old rail fence, and this the sign in the picture here. It says CIRCA, whatever that means, 1835 to 1840. Stuttering Tom Lennox was a mule skinner. His job consisted of driving teams of mules and also caring for these animals. The mules were used for pulling wagons loaded with iron ore and charcoal to the works. His favorites were Belle and Nellie, both gray mules. When work was slow at the Merrimack Iron Works, the teams were rented out to surrounding farmers. And here's the mural depicting Belle and Nellie in the background. The log cabin, the log barn. There's a wagon, a man with a scythe out here in the corner, and one with a mule with a harness on there. I see 3 mules. I don't know which of them are Belle and Nellie, but he had several, and Belle and Nellie were his favorite. But this would be a view in this area right here in the 1835 to 1840. We've made about 100 yards down the road, and we come to another little settlement here, and it says CIRCA, Sir C, 1848 to 1851. And it says George Evans spent some 3 years at the Merrimack Iron Works. On March 14th, 1848, he and his brother started construction of the grist mill. George also built the boarding house and other residences throughout the area. He married Emily Treese and shortly afterwards moved to Steelville. Old George deserted him. But there he is, sitting under the tree, and there's his new bride. She's out there cooking up a bunch of apple butter. The old cow, the old coon dog, and a few pigs. But that's 1850. About 100 yards is another house here at Stringtown. And as it said, there were houses all up and down here. This one's 1842 to 1845. And it says a dog trot cabin consists of 2 cabins joined together by a breezeway. Much of the wood for fuel was kept there during rainy weather. A home of this type could provide living quarters for 2 families. This was the home site of David Westlake and Mary Chambers. They married shortly after the cabin was built in January of 1842. Westlake was a master caller at the Merrimack Iron Works. And there's a picture of the dog trot cabin with the breezeway in between. We'd call it a duplex in 1988, but they called it a dog trot cabin back in 1842. And they got the little garden plot, another little cabin. Of course, they've let this road grow up something fierce now. But there is how Stringtown looked in 1842, 1845. That'd be George and Mary, or Davis and Mary Westlake. And this is 1830 to 1836. The sun's shining on this, and we got a shadow, but I'll try and read it. It says Samuel Heyer and his wife, the former Elizabeth Mitchell, lived on this site. They had 8 children, 3 sons and 5 daughters. Samuel was a leading iron worker at Merrimack. The Heyer's daughter Martha became one of the earliest teachers at the works. She later married John Brazil Harrison, the son of James Berry Harrison and Lavisa Voss Duncan, who came to Phelps County in 1818. This is a typical hewed log cabin, and the first of this type cabin used by the iron workers built on the Stringtown Road. And doggone, I wished I could get away from that shadow. I don't know whether I am going or not. Yeah, but there's a cabin. We got the sun shining on it with a shadow. But that's the early cabin. And there is the, I guess, the original fireplace, chimney, that was built to the edge of that cabin. here on the Stringtown Road.
There's more than one down
We're looking across the cemetery now, but we've got some deer down here. We're trying to. I only see the one.
Well, there's one on down this way. It's facing us though.
Yeah, that's the one I see.
Oh, you don't see the one sideways here?
This one's sideways here, and there's one behind a tree where you are. You can't see it.
Oh, I can't see it.
No, there he comes. Now watch
Yeah,
it.
I see him.
See him?
There are two deer down there.
You walk right here, you can look at it. Okay, come here. Slowly.
See him looking at you? There they go. Off in the woods.
Two deer here in the cemetery. Merrimack Community Cemetery, 1858 to 1882. The sign reads, "This peaceful site became the final resting place for over 250 Merrimack Village residents who shared the joys and fears of wilderness life. Hardships constantly plagued the pioneers. Many lost their lives prematurely to the harshness of a rugged Ozark frontier. Merrimack iron workers were no exceptions. As you walk among these weathered stones and unmarked graves, many of which are the graves of children, let those who sleep lie undisturbed, at peace with all mankind. Think of the life that was, and be thankful for the life that is."
25th of February, 65, so he's just a couple months old.
What are all those other stones in the background there?
That's just, that's a marker of them. That's still the same people.
Oh,
And this was Henry. He was just 1 year, 7 months, and 6 days, 58 and 59.
this is a long plot here, and these are all children.
Many. She was about 8 months old when she died.
8 months, some of them a year, some of them 8 months.
Oh, this one was Joseph, and he was 14 years, 10 months, and 13 days. He was,
He was the oldest.
yeah.
Here's one that was 6 years. All right. John Dial. All right, here's a stone here. Description reads, John P. Dial, D-I-E-H-L, died October 4th, 1871, age 53 years, 2 months, and 12 days. So all of these bound here. But what is so impressive is that just some stones, some of them don't even have stones, but they've all got these white iron crosses that mark the graves, huh? Some do have stones. Here's another evidently family plot up here with the stones around it. But I guess the James Foundation has put up these. They're just, all they are is 1-inch steel pipe, gas pipe, with T's on them to mark these individual graves. 250 people buried here in this Merrimack Cemetery. This is still in part of the original Merrimack Park. They're ringed in rock, and the tombstone there is says the wife of a lively somebody, but she died in 1883. She's born in 1853, so she was only 30 years old. But there it is. Quite a unique cemetery out of the past. I didn't have the camera on. Standing on a deck that's built out here on this scenic road, and we're looking down and into the river, into the hills. We're going to pan around the hills, and you can see some of the openings back in the bottom as the river makes a curve, and over in the distance is the entrance into Merrimack Park. And this is where we came in. We've just made a great big circle, come up here on top of this hill, and we're looking generally eastward now into the Ozark Mountains, right above Merrimack Springs. In fact, we're still in the park.
You see, that's the river you see right over there. That's the Merrimack River.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the river over. Let's see if we can zoom in and catch that. Yeah, this spring area here makes a big loop.
Oh, that's Merrimack River.
What? This is the spring.
Yeah, but this area over here is a Merrimack
All right,
River.
all this does is make a big loop around here.
Right along the edge of the hillside.
Yeah, and joins in right in there. I've got it. Which is due north of the entrance into the park. You can see the highway. I believe that's highway number 8. Comes out of Steelville there. Earlier and thought I had the camera on, but I don't, so I'll reread it. It says, the Ozark Mountains. If you were standing at this spot 200 million years ago, you might have found yourself looking at one of the highest mountain ranges ever to exist in North America. This area lies within the foothill region of the oldest mountain ranges on this continent. Watching the birth of our other mountain ranges, the Ozarks went through several periods of uplift and erosion to reach their present hill status. Unlike other mountain ranges, the Ozarks ran generally east and west. The Merrimack River and the Merrimack Spring Branch, which you see below, are examples of the many water sources born in the Ozarks. The Merrimack River flows in an northeasterly direction to empty into the Mississippi. Many types of soils developed throughout the Ozarks as oceans, which covered the areas 10 times from 500 to 200 million years ago, deposited layers of sediment and organic matter from decaying plants and animals. During the last few 100,000 years, a rich variety of plants and animal life evolved and adapted to the complex soils of the Ozark highlands. As water seeped downward through the porous, chittery soil, it picked up organic matter and became slightly acid and ate its way through the underlying soluble limestone. Small holes grew into large caverns and underground streams, some of which found their way to the surface to form bubbling sources of water, such as the beautiful Merrimack Springs. The story of man in the Ozark Highland occupies no more than a second in geologic history. Indians lived here for thousands of years, having little effect on the environment. Increasing numbers of permanent settlers killed out the game animals in a few short years. They farmed the lands poorly suited to the purpose. The Ozark Razorback hog became famous as livestock exceeded the carrying capacity of the land. Ridges like this one still carry the name hogback because of their resemblance to the narrow back of the razorback. Commercial timber cutting in the late 1800s and annual burning, which the hill folk believed would rid the woods of ticks, chiggers, and snakes, as well as make the grass grow, left the hills bare. The thin topsoil eroded quickly, the streams choked with gravel and silt, springs dried up, and wildlife disappeared. Conditions worsened until the Ozarks became one of the depressed rural areas of America. Finally, during the 1930s, public and private agencies began a program of education, enforcement, and reforestation. Many of these once stripped hills are now covered with scrub oak, hickory forest, but the scene has changed dramatically, as evidenced by the forested hills and clear streams surrounding you. It is our hope that the view before you will always remain in its present natural condition, a gift of God to mankind. Perhaps this view will help you gain an appreciation of nature and how great this gift really is. And signed, the James Foundation. A view of the hills here in the Ozarks. We've driven 220 miles to get here. And now that we're here, Betty says, is that all there is? But it says Hodson's Water Mill. And we'll get some different shots. But there's the old mill.
It's Sycamore.
It's Sycamore. There's a stream as it comes out of the mill. We'll go up into the mill here in a minute and see what we can find. Hodson's Mill. It's a water wheel. And as we walk in, it may be too dark. There we go. But right in there is where the spring comes from. We're moving around here. It comes out of the hill there. And it's all been walled up around there, keyed in. It comes right down here and run this water wheel. That's what we see. Of course, it's not in operation now, but this is the old Hodson's Mill. Side of the mill. There's the Hodson's products that is famous. part of the old mill. Comes out of the wheel. We're looking right down on it from the mill here at picturesque Hudson's Mill. Okay, this is the Hudson's Mill. They don't grind here anymore. They do that in Gainesville. But the lady said they used this mill until 1977 to grind their product here. The mill, there's a, an old gas pump. One of the old kind that you pumped up gravity flow. There's a log cabin there in the background up along the bluff. And there's, I guess, more of the mill. And I guess maybe there's a road that goes back up to the top of the mill there where they would unload whatever it was to grind. And if you look through there real close, you can probably see a camper. Yeah, there it is. Parked up there in the woods. Well, that was parked there at Hudson's Mill. I don't know whether I got a part of that in the picture or not, but anyway, that's Hudson's Mill right there. The little spring branch that we saw comes down and runs right into the North Fork of the White River right here. And this is a public access area. There's a road. You just come around this gravel road and down through here, Hudson's Mill in the background there. That little spring branch. And now you're looking downstream where Betty is at the north branch, I think, of the White River. She's I'm having a terrible time with her. It's cold here. You know, it's almost frosted. It's October 5th, and she's going to go down there. She's heading for the woods. Now, I don't know what she's got planned down there, but she's going on down around there. She wants to play in the river. But we'll have. What? All right, we're here at the Shepherd of the Hills now. Rainy old morning, looking out at the mountains here. I've got a dirty lens too I got to clean. These are some of the flower beds here. Petunias. Some marigolds back there. There's a mixture of mums there. That's the barn, and in the background is old Matt's cabin here at Shepherd of the Hills. Okay, again, here's just a sign. It reads Old Matt's Cabin, the Ozarks' most famous pioneer homestead, and homestead of the leading family of the leading characters of the world famous story Shepherd of the Hills. And it's maintained by the Branson Civic Club, and it says welcome to the grounds. Dedicated to Harold Bell Wright, dated 1903, and it reads, "This my story is a very old story. In the hills of life there are two trails. One lies along the sunset fields where those who journey see far, and the light lingers even when the sun is down. And one leads to the lower ground where those who travel as they go look always over their shoulders with eyes of dread, and gloomy shadows gather long before the day is done. In life it has happened many, many times before, in many, many places. The two trails lead afar. The story, so very old, is still in the telling." And that's Harold Bell Wright, dated 1903. It's dark and the signs are multicolored here, so some of it's going to be hard to read. Just as we pan from the sign now, there's the cabin that old Matt and the family lived in here, as Harold Bell Wright wrote The Shepherd of the Hills. Matt's cabin, October the 6th, 1988. We'll go on up to Inspiration Point and get a shot from where he actually pitched his camp and wrote the story. We're looking at the state historical marker here now in the park, the Shepherd of the Hills. and I'm going to attempt to read what it says here, and it simply says Taney County. Harold Bell Wright, 1872 to 1944, camped here while he gathered material for his 1907 novel, The Shepherd of the Hills. Among scenes in Taney County and the adjacent Stone County to the west described in the novel are Dewey Ball Mountain, the trail nobody knows how old, Sammy's Lookout, Mutton Hollow, Uncle Ike's post office at the Forks, and Old Matt's cabin. On Bear Creek above Walnut Shade in Taney County once stood Bonnie Brook, the home of Rose O'Neill, 1874 to 1944, artist and writer. There she created the Cupid, a famous fat winged top-knotted baby doll. Located at Point Lookout to the south is the outstanding School of the Ozarks. It was founded under Presbyterian auspices at Forsyth in 1907 and removed to the present site in 1915. The school has a noted museum. When explorer Henry Rose Schoolcraft visited Missouri's White River Ozarks in 1818, he saw Osage Indians and scattered settlers living as hunters in present Taney County, now a dairy and livestock farming, lumbering, and resort area. And we'll go around and read on the other side. This is the marker here at Lookout Point, Inspiration Point in Taney County. And it reads, Taney County here in Missouri's fabled White River country was organized in 1837 and was named for Chief Justice Roger Brooke Taney. Around bend of Lake Taneycomo, Taney County, Missouri is Forsyth, the county seat, settled in the 1820s and named for John Forsyth, Secretary of State. The town was removed to its present site in 1950 to 1951. The impounding of the waters by Bull Shoals Dam in Arkansas made the move necessary. Settled largely by Southerners, the area suffered from guerrilla raids during the Civil War. 2 decades after the war, a secret law and order group was organized, known as the Ball Knobbers, for the bare hilltops used as lookout points. Nearby Branson, one of the many resort towns in the area, was settled in the 1880s and was named for its first postmaster. The year the White River Branch Railroad came through in 1906, Hollister was laid out and named for a railroad official. At power site is Ozark Dam, privately built in 1913, which forms Lake Taneycomo from White River mainstream of the Ozark watershed. The site of Table Rock Dam is above Branson. There are the markers here at Inspiration Point in Taney County. We're going to take another shot here of Inspiration Point showing the statues. Now, where these 4 statues are, the statue of Old Matt to your left with the axe, of the shepherd in the center, of Pete and his dog there in the middle, and of Aunt Molly standing to the right, or at least to my right as I take the picture, was a roadside park. And many years ago, probably in the late 1960s, the first time we were down here, we came to this roadside park called Inspiration Point. There were picnic tables and we had a camp stove and we cooked breakfast and ate breakfast looking out over the Ozark Mountains. Closer shot. You can see the statue and on the bottom it says the shepherd. There. Then you come up here, you see a statue, and on the bottom of it is the inscription Aunt Molly. Here, turned and facing the shepherd, is Pete and his dog Brave as they sit there looking at the shepherd. And here again is just a close-up of Old Matt here at Inspiration Point. Times have changed. There are big gravel piles in the back here. They're getting ready to do some kind of construction. There's one of the old fireplaces that was here at this roadside park. I don't know whether it's been given over now to the Shepherd of the Hills. It's all fenced off. And you can't even drive up here anymore. It used to be you could drive up here and look out over the mountains. In the background is Lake Taneycomo. It's beginning to rain. It's a cold, cold morning. Temperatures in the lower 40s here. Fog and a haze in the background over the hills, and so we're probably going to call it a day and go back home. But there in the background is Lake Taneycomo. Inspiration Point, Branson, Missouri. Old barn here that's been here for so long. Looking now into the cabin, old Matt's cabin here, Inspiration Point, and it's beginning to rain, so we're going to have to go to the car. View of the cabin and the surroundings. There's the old barn that we took a picture of, the road that comes by over the mountains. Ground. It's already not quite 8 o'clock. One of the Jeeps and the trailers that haul you around. More of the commercialization. 1988. Shepherd of the Hills. We've never seen it as busy as it is down here now. When we came in through Hollister last night, everything was full. It's full everywhere. Cold, cold day. South Missouri now, and we're here at Laclede, which is between Brookfield and Chillicothe. Actually, it's just west of Brookfield. And this is the boyhood home of General John J. Blackjack Pershing. There's Betty up there. She's reading the literature about her, some of the signs about it. But there's a statue to him, and we're panning around now. This is a shot of his boyhood home here in Laclede, Missouri, just right downtown, just a block north of the downtown area is his home, the boyhood home of John J. Blackjack Pershing. And the marker here, General John J. Pershing Boyhood Home, State Historical Site. He got the nickname Black Jack because he took mostly black men during the First World War and formed them into a fighting unit and was their commander at that time. We're here at Swan Lake on the refuse. Looking out to the northeast, there were some geese coming in. They've settled now. They didn't get close enough where we could see them. There are a few flying. Maybe we'll get some later on. This is just looking out of the silo tower here at Swan Lake. 2:21, October the 7th. Dirty glasses, dirty windows, flies. There's some of the water. The water is very low up here. You're kidding.
You're up 713 feet.
This is looking out of west window. And there's a visitor center, the headquarters buildings going down the road. To the south, some of the fields. But we still haven't really seen any geese. But we're going to drive through the refuge here. Maybe we'll find some later on. There's all kinds of writing on these windows as you look out. That one says north. This one points to Sumner 3 miles, Fountain Grove 7 miles, Levee number 4. But the one that kind of gets me, it says Kansas City 68 miles. And we're at an elevation of 713 feet. But that kind of surprises me that we're that close to Kansas City. but maybe there goes a camper and a pickup by. It's a long way up that dude. They do have a new steel spiral staircase that goes up there, and the windows all around it. It's a shame they weren't open. They have them locked, but if they were open we could have gotten some better pictures because the windows were dirty and full of flies. Okay. These are all geese here now on the bottom of Swan Lake. We'll see if we can't get a little better shot of them here in a minute. They're all here on the ground. There's a wheat field back in there, but they're not close enough really that we can do much other than see them there in the distance on the reservation here at Swan Lake. Maybe you can hear them in the background. A few flying, but they're ways off. You can hear them there in the background. We'll drive on and see what we can find. We understand there's about 50 pelicans up here too. We're going to go see some more as they come in. They're landing down there and we're looking into the sun again. One lone goose up here. Going over. More geese flying over us there. Another small bunch. They're just coming off the lake, just going over us here. This is what they call Silver Lake. This is another area of Swan Lake. Turning around now. I hear more geese. There's the two going up here. As they go over. There's more just flying every direction here now. Two more as they go. Seems like they're flying in pairs of twos sometimes. Now we got traffic coming now, but this is Silver Lake on the Swan Lake Refuge. Crane are flying out through there. If I'm on him, I can't really pick him out. He's really can't pick him out in all those weeds. Big old crane there. Geese across there. Again, we're just looking at there goes some ducks. MR ducks. Across here at Silver Lake. We were clear up on the other end a while ago where all those geese are squalling. Right down in here now are some geese. They're just sitting there, not bothering a thing. They didn't fly. We've seen several cranes, and when we get up to the cranes, they're so skittish that they take off and they fly. They fly so low over those weeds that you can't pick them out. But they're such Bunch of geese just down here, kind of in a little old slough, not even out on the main lake. What we're looking for really is for some pelicans, and they say there are about 50 white pelicans in this area. But so far we haven't run across them. But there's some of your geese, Swan Lake. Those cranes, we told you how skittish they were. You just can't get close enough really to do much with them. Again, just will not sit still for you. Worse than a kid. Here they are. Well, we've got a truck coming, so we're going to have to pull up. Way out in here now, we got the Canadians, and there's a few snow geese mixed in with them out there. They've all been up this way. I guess they've seen me walking through here. They're all walking back out the other way. Some of the geese at Swan Lake. Coming in. Then we get this bunch and clear down at the end of the field. I doubt if you're going to be able to see it. Yeah, you are. There's a whole bunch more down there, right at the water's edge. Some flying across there. This is the Silver Lake area of Swan Lake Refuge here in Sumner, Missouri. Sumner has a sign that says it's the goose capital of the world. And they have a festival here every year. And they have this goose here. And I guess it was shot at Swan Lake, I don't know, somewhere around the area. But they named him Maxie. And the sign down there says the world's largest goose, Sumner, Missouri. So if you want the world's largest goose, you got to come to Sumner, Missouri. Now I don't have any idea how many hunters or what they shot that with, or where he was at, or how they got him in here, but that's one big goose. So if you enjoy big gooses, this one's for you. Maxie, world's largest goose, Sumner, Missouri.